BP is working to deliver the energy America needs today while developing lower carbon alternatives. We support more than 275,000 U.S. jobs, and in 2022, our businesses contributed more than $70 billion to the U.S. economy. Every major BP global business is active in America, our largest presence in the world. That's how BP is investing in America.
Hi, this is Lyle Lovett welcoming you to TribFest 23. I hope you're enjoying this weekend of big ideas and important conversations about the future of our state and our country. No matter who you are or what you believe, please be courteous and respectful to everyone around you. And no matter where you call home, thank you for being here. That's right, even if you're not from Texas, the Texas Tribune Festival wants you anyway.
My name is Sonal Shah, and I am the CEO of the Texas Tribune. I am so thrilled to kick off the 2023 Texas Tribune Festival and welcome you to this year's event. And let me tell you, you are in for a treat. So are you ready for all these conversations? Yes. And for all the walking? Yes. Over the next few days, you'll have the opportunity to participate in conversations on the impeachment trial, on the economy, on unintended consequences of policy changes, immigration, education, and so much more. You'll hear from names you know and others you should. On our stages, you'll come across ideas that challenge you and hopefully give you a chance to think deeper about topics you care the most about. And when you're given the floor to ask questions of our speakers, don't hold back. And you can tell them I told you that. We want to create a space for dialogue, to engage, and to ask hard questions, but please be respectful. Over the next few days, in these conversations, we'll be talking about real lives, real stories, and real communities, all as real as the good people sitting next to you. None of this is theoretical. We're laying it out for you, just like the Tribune's newsroom has for the last 14 years. This is live journalism. Every day, our journalists make connections between what's happening in our state to local issues and to national matters. We want to empower you with the information. We want to engage you. Engagement builds trust and strengthens our democracy. We want you to hear what we hear, participate in the conversations, and make your own decisions. Journalism is the bedrock of democracy. It takes a community of individuals like you, institutions, organizations, philanthropists, businesses, and leaders coming together and participating in decisions being made, the policies being crafted, and voicing your opinion. Democracy succeeds when we engage. It is what makes our state vibrant and ensures a healthy future. It all starts with journalism, and it continues with you. So thank you for being here and for being a part of our community. Now let me welcome a familiar face to the stage. The man really needs no introduction. He had a big, bold idea 14 years ago, which has brought us all here together. So today, let me please introduce our co-founder, Texas Tribune's co-founder, senior advisor, and all-around great person, Evan Smith.
Evan, thank you. That's really nice.
Hello! Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, Sonal. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome to the 2023 Texas Tribune Festival. I know what some of you are thinking. Didn't he retire? What's he doing here? My friends, it's like they said in Brokeback Mountain, I just can't quit you. When we started the Tribune 14 years ago, I had in mind an annual ideas festival similar to the multi-day events put on by the Atlantic and the New Yorker, featuring the biggest names and the biggest brains from our main coverage areas, politics and policy, plus a few carefully chosen friends from the media. The first one was to be in 2011, and we did indeed launch TribFest that year, and we've done it every year since. We could not be happier to see what it's become. When I look out at you staring back at me, I know the potential for live journalism has been realized. How could I not be here? The need to gather like this has surely grown exponentially over the years, and it's at its peak right this minute. I say it over and over, the fire hose of news is turned up to the highest setting at all times. These days, nowhere more than here. In the last year, during and adjacent to one regular and two special sessions of our legislature, we had epic debates over property taxes, school vouchers, and local control, headline-making fights over health care for transgender kids, renewable energy, library books, school sports, a state takeover of our largest school district, months and months of brain-burning heat that was extreme even by our standards, a crisis at the border with no end in sight, and the impeachment of our Attorney General, which mixed the nail-biting drama of a procedural crime show with the steamy plot lines of a telenovela. Through it all, aren't you glad you had a reliable, credible, independent source of statewide news? The job of the Texas Tribune has always been to enable thoughtful and productive citizenship, to raise the level of civic engagement, and to civilize conversations about issues through beat reporting, daily and breaking news reporting, political reporting, investigative reporting, data reporting, and editorial events. Every day, everyone at the Trib searches for the truth and tells you what they find. Every day, they hold public officials and taxpayer-funded institutions accountable without regard to party or ideology. Every day, they surface for you in your busy lives the things important enough for you to stop and pay attention to. That is what my co-founders and I said the Tribune would do 14 years ago at launch, and it is what the Tribune is still doing, with ambition and energy and purpose, on platforms and stages small and large, but none larger than this. If you go back and do the math, this is the 13th Texas Tribune Festival. The first 9 were in person. The first 7 of those on the University of Texas campus until we outgrew them or they outgrew us. I'm not sure which. The 8th and 9th were right here in downtown Austin. We had big plans for numbers 10 and 11, but COVID had even bigger plans. Fortunately, we were able to return in a major way last year for the 12th. And this festival just keeps getting better. Nearly 300 speakers this year. I thought that we would have fewer, but Kevin McCarthy changed his mind late today. And thank God for that. And more than 100 hour-long sessions over 3 days, curated in perfect alignment with our mission. That is what we have in store for you, along with a few surprises. There is nothing we like more than putting thousands of people in dozens of rooms and having serious conversations about the future of Texas and the future of our country. Now, an event like this one does not happen without a lot of help and a lot of hands on the wheel. First, I want to thank the sponsors of this year's festival for stepping up and supporting not just this event, but by extension, the Tribune's journalism in the public interest year-round. Their dollars enable everything we do. Visit Fort Worth supports so much of this festival over these 3 days. You will see their presence every place you go. BP is the presenting sponsor of our opening and closing sessions. Give them a hand, that's fine. Starts With Us is a big sponsor of the Tribune Festival this year. Emergent, Arnold Ventures, Chevron, Comcast, Raise Your Hand Texas, 6th Street, the Sumners Foundation, Texas Monthly, and Visit El Paso and the County of El Paso. Also supporting us, Capital Factory, the Cynthia and George Mitchell Foundation, HCA Healthcare, Houston Landing, the Meadows Mental Health Policy Institute, Methodist Healthcare Ministries of South Texas, Texas 2036, Texas Mutual Insurance, Texas State Technical College, UT Health's Houston School of Public Health. Also, AARP Texas, Adobe CAI, Anheuser-Busch, the Austin Community College District, the law firm of Barron, Adler, Clough, and Odo, the Beer Alliance of Texas, the Commit Partnership, Educate Texas, Good Systems at UT Austin, HEB, the Hobby School of Public Affairs, the Hotel Magdalena, Houston Endowment, Houston Loves Teachers, Jackson Walker LLP, J.P. Morgan Chase, the Meadows Foundation, Encore, Panacea Collective, PepsiCo, Philanthropy Advocates, the RISA Foundation, Rice University's Master of Social Policy Evaluation, St. David's Healthcare, Texas AFT, the Texas Association of Community Colleges, Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities, the Texas Energy Summit, the Texas Forward Party. All right now. The Texas Lyceum, Texas State Teachers Association, Tito's Handmade Vodka. Biggest applause of the night right now. Literally like the sun rising every day when I mention Tito's Vodka. That's the response. The Trellis Foundation, the University of Texas Press, William Chris Vineyards, and World Education Services. Give them a hand. They're paying for serious journalism with integrity, the right way. I also want to thank our festival media partners, the Austin Chronicle, Fort Worth Report, El Paso Matters, KERA, ProPublica, San Antonio Report, and the 19th. Give them a hand as well, please. Thank you to everybody on the Texas Tribune staff, too many to mention, who worked to make this festival our best ever. Thanks to our outside partners, Autumn Rich, and everyone at Panacea, and Robert Busweiler and Candace Pugach, and everybody at Sunshine Sachs for their hard work and good cheer. And biggest and most sincere thanks to all of you for being here, for reading, for helping us carry the flag for a more informed and more engaged Texas, for giving us momentum and motivation. We love you for it. Your support makes everything possible. Never forget that. We do this for you, but we could not do it without you. If you are already a member of the Texas Tribune, bless you. If you're not, consider signing up during our fall member drive going on right now. Go to texastribune.org/join to give during TribFest, and you'll be eligible to win a swanky weekend getaway. Here is the drill for tonight, about 50 minutes of back and forth on stage, then we'll do about 15 minutes of audience Q&A. We don't have microphones here at the Paramount. Instead, as we've done in previous fests, we're going to have you submit your questions online, and we'll ask them on your behalf. Go to texastribune.org/ask to tell us what you'd like to know. I also understand there's going to be a QR code you can scan, and you'll be able to submit questions. We'll ask them on your behalf. Last things. Speaking of phones, silence yours. And if you're tweeting or threadsing or whatever we're calling it about this session, use the hashtag TribFest23. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our opening night keynote, a conversation with the Honorable Chris Sununu, the 82nd Governor of New Hampshire. Now, sir, yeah, give him a hand. Absolutely give him a hand. Now serving his fourth two-year term leading the Granite State, the 48-year-old is a lifelong Republican by affiliation and family tradition, and by his own definition, a lifelong conservative. Stipulated, a New England Republican or even a New England conservative is to the left of some Texas Democrats. Oh, there you are. How you doing?
Look, I figured you were never going to shut up, so I better come out.
I am never going to shut up. You are absolutely right.
I love them.
Well, don't stand. Sit down. You're good. You're good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent.
I'm in Texas. I will do what I'm told.
You're very good. But those two descriptors, Republican and conservative, mean different things of late. And so he, and not just he, is engaged in a battle for the future of his party that also may be a battle for the future of our democracy. At its core, that battle is over the unwillingness of a certain someone to exit the stage. In 2016, then gubernatorial candidate... I'm assuming you don't mean me.
No, never.
It's going to be all shtick tonight, you guys. It's going to be all shtick. In 2016, then gubernatorial candidate Sununu didn't start out a Donald Trump fan, but came around to supporting his party's nominee that November. In 2020, he was more enthusiastic. I'm a Trump guy through and through, he infamously told a radio talk show host. But at some point, the bloom came off the rose. It wasn't just one thing. It was two straight elections, 2018 and 2020, in which Republicans across the country underperformed with Trump in the driver's seat. It was a third cycle, 2022, in which out there Trump-endorsed candidates lost winnable races in the general election, costing the GOP key governorships and control of the U.S. Senate. It was the unending, unproven claims of fraud following Trump's loss in 2020 to Joe Biden. It was the insurrection of 1/6. When Trump announced he would run again in 2024, Governor Sununu considered jumping in the race himself. He eventually decided against it, but committed to working to defeat the former president. One month ago today, the governor published a widely read op-ed in the New York Times titled, "If Republicans narrow the field, we will beat Trump." A full-throated case for derailing a re-election bid. Key quote, "If Mr. Trump is the Republican nominee for president in 2024, Republicans will lose up and down the ballot. Every candidate with an R next to his or her name will be left to answer for the electoral albatross at the top of the ticket. Instead of going on offense and offering an alternative to Joe Biden's failing leadership, Republicans will continue to be consumed with responding to Mr. Trump's constant grievances and lies, turning off every independent suburban voter in America. And Mr. Trump, ever the narcissist, will spend the entire campaign whining about his legal troubles and bilking his supporters of their retirement savings to pay for his lawyers. I wish you would tell us what you really think."
I wish you would stop. I'm getting depressed before even starting, just reliving it all. My God.
To Democrats and never Trumpers, such language is heroism. Probably gets you a contract on MSNBC if you want one. To always Republicans and the MAGA faithful, it's heresy, the kind of thing that puts your career in elective office on hold.
No, I'm good.
I know. Well, see, there you go. If that's the case, the governor doesn't seem to give two rips. That's, in fact, what's there next. He's traveling the country like a liberated man, speaking his truth. Consequences be damned. Very quickly, Chris Sununu was born and raised in Salem, New Hampshire. Graduated from MIT with a degree in civil and environmental engineering. He stayed close to his major for the first 10 years out of school, designing systems to clean up hazardous waste sites, and soon after entered the family business, politics and public service. His father, John H. Sununu, had been a 3-term governor of New Hampshire who went on to be chief of staff in George H.W. Bush's White House. His mother, Nancy, in addition to her time as first lady, was on the school board. His brother, John E. Sununu, represented the state in the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. When the moment arrived, the second youngest of the 8 Sununu siblings ran successfully for the New Hampshire Executive Council, serving 3 terms, and then in 2016 sought the office of governor himself. He was most recently reelected last November with nearly 57% of the vote. Although he'd be eligible to serve a 5th term, he announced in July that he wouldn't be on the ballot again. "We've been able to provide a lot of opportunity," he said. "It seems like a perfect time to pass the reins off to someone else." I was excited to hear that he wasn't running because a guy with time on his hands was likelier to accept an invitation to be here tonight.
There you go.
And what do you know? Please join me in welcoming your opening night keynoter at TribFest 2023, Governor Chris Sununu.
Thank you. There you go. Thank you, brother.
You're so funny for coming out. So good. All right.
You know, we go long on the intros. That's a feature of this festival. So.
Clearly.
Okay.
You do it well.
Thank you. Governor, thank you for coming back to Austin.
You bet. No, I've been here 4 times
Yep.
in the past year. I had never been here before a year ago. I like it. I'm digging the town.
Yeah.
I am. It's got its issues. Don't get me wrong. I'm not loving everything, but I'm liking
it has a vibe.
Oh, it has a vibe.
It has a vibe.
Just walk outside the door, you'll get the vibe.
So let's start out with that August 21st op-ed in the Times.
Sure.
Why write it? It seems like an escalation. You had to know you were poking the bear with a stick.
So you know what the funny thing is? You know what I was trying to poke? I was trying to poke the media. So I do a lot of media, right? And every time I go on, and I'm happy just to say, I just say what's on my mind. I don't couch my words. I probably should, but. And everyone's like, well, isn't it inevitable? Trump's going to lose. Trump's going to win. Trump's going to win. I say, no, guys. Understand that back in when Bush was running against McCain, Bush was up, at this point in the campaign, Bush was up by 30 points. In New Hampshire, McCain beat him by 20, right? So Clinton, nobody's going to beat the Clinton Democrat machine, that little unknown guy named Barack Obama, whooped her. So there's a lot to be played out. So it was more like saying, I'm not just saying Trump can lose because I'm hoping it. I wanted to lay out how it happens. And the most important aspect is, again, voters have to have the say in all that, but then the candidates need the discipline and the responsibility to get out, because one-on-one, he loses. There's no question about that. He will not retain 50% of the vote if it's one-on-one. So, I mean, I guess if you think of it this way, if 7 or 8 candidates have the discipline to get out, he's toast. And so that's what it really comes down to. The voters will have the say, figure out who that one is. Everyone else has to have the discipline to get out at the right time, hopefully before Super Tuesday, and he's done.
I want you to name names. Who specifically should get out? Asa Hutchinson and Will Hurt are at this festival this weekend.
And they're both great friends.
Do you want me to tell them anything for you?
No. Well, no. So a couple things. Asa and Will are great. Asa is one of my best friends. We served as governor for a long time together. Right. Will was one of the smartest people, served his country, and overseas. It was just amazing. I mean, really, really great individual. If you didn't make the first debate, the idea was, well, it's going to be pretty tough to make the second, and only 8 people made the first debate. My guess is 6 or 7 will make the second debate. I think after that, everyone has to kind of have a hard conversation. Is there a clear path to be the nominee? And if there's not, you probably got to go. But it's only September. I don't think those conversations have to happen today, but probably pretty soon for some of them. And remember, we technically have like 13 or 14 candidates running, right?
Right.
The first debate got it down to 8. I think the second debate gets it down to 6 or 7. Whether you agree with the filters or not, there's got to be a path somewhere there if you're going to keep going. My sense is, as you get to November, December, look, if you're polling in the low single digits, it's probably not going to happen.
You're also probably not raising much money.
Well, that's it. And so if you're landing strong in some of the earlier states, different story, right? Because you could do the Gary Hart thing and come out. Well, not that I'm a big fan of Gary Hart, but you could kind of come out of nowhere, right? I mean, there are stories. George H.W. Bush got crushed in Iowa, but boy, he came out strong and won New Hampshire, and it carried him. So there are paths there, but by the time you get past New Hampshire, maybe past South Carolina, as long as before Super Tuesday, it's clear, well, either this one or this one is going to be the alternative to Trump. Everyone else gets out, and we're there. So I don't think anyone has to I can't believe he's not announcing he's not out of the race yet. I don't think we're there yet. But I think over the fall, there's time for that to happen, and in my sense it will. And by the way, it's not going to be like 2016. Remember 2016? Scott Walker gets out first and says, now everybody else should get out. No one did.
No one got out.
Different approach, and that was part of the op-ed. It was, look, it's not just myself. I think you're going to have 100 different voices out there, from influencers, from media, from donors. The donors have to be loud. Donors have to say, hey, man, I backed you with millions or whatever it is. You were my guy, but we all agree. Now, think of it this way. I'm a game theory guy, MIT, kind of dorky, but 8, let's just call the 8 candidates that are out there right now. They all have the same interest in Trump not being the nominee. So they all carry that same interest. But what they need to do is make sure that their selfish interest of staying too long and a little bit too much ego doesn't thwart that for everybody else. So if they do what they all agree they should do, it will be done. But if not, then it's going to be repeated.
Boy, it's hard to wire around self-interest, right? Every one of those candidates who is not Trump looks in the mirror in the morning and sees a future president staring back, whether that's realistic or not.
And that's why the donor base is really important. When the money dries up, when they know there's no future, when those folks, because I've been a candidate, and sometimes you think, oh man, people have put their money behind me. They believe in me. I got to see this all the way to the end. We're going to keep fighting, keep fighting. I don't want them to think that I gave up too early. The whole idea is if they get in and say, yeah, you should give it up.
Right.
I mean, for the sake of everyone, there's no clear path here. It's cool. We backed you. It's okay.
You cut off the supply.
Yeah, that's it.
So the op-ed, you said a lot of things about the former president, but this was also a line in the op-ed. Nearly 2/3 of Americans say they would likely not support Mr. Trump in 2024.
Yeah.
That's a pragmatic argument. If this guy's the nominee,
you can't win.
There's a significant number of people in the fall who will not support him in the fall. Does that include you? Larry Hogan, who was here this weekend, says he will not support Trump if he's the nominee. You have said in the past, I think on Meet the Press in March, I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm going to support the Republican nominee. Oh, you mean the guy you just trashed?
Yeah, it won't be him. So a couple things. It really won't be Trump, right? It really won't be.
Right.
There's a couple things happening there. The whole world is going to look so different politically just a year from now.
Yeah.
Right? I don't even know who the opponent is. I think it's more likely Biden isn't the Democrat nominee than Trump isn't the Republican nominee. So what are the options? Who's the opponents? Who else is on the ballot? Right. Where's the indictments? Where's the Biden indictments? What's happening with the Democrats? There are so many other pieces to play out here. So, yeah, look, it's like saying, are you going to show up for your colonoscopy next year? Well, I intend to. I know it's the right thing to do, but I don't know if I'm going to walk in the office when the time is right,
Governor,
so you just don't know.
Governor, respectfully, you wrote an op-ed saying we have to beat Trump because...
To the Republican Party, sure.
But
that's the message to the Republicans.
When it comes to the fall, this guy you just trashed, you're going to go, I'll pick him?
Seriously? Well, remember, everyone votes for somebody else.
Right.
Yeah, you're always going to consolidate around someone. I just don't think it's going to be him. I think there's my effort. Now, I can tell you next year, God forbid if he really is on the top of the ticket, we're going to have a repeat worse than 22. 22, we got our butts kicked as Republicans because of him and his message. It wasn't even him, by the way. It was candidates like him got crushed. Imagine if he was on the ticket, right? So there are just so many independents that aren't coming back. There's so many Republicans. There's 5 or 10% at least of Republicans that are absolutely firm that are just, we're never going to do it again. So there's no path that he can win. And most importantly, as an example, I'm not running again, but I really want a Republican to hold that corner office in New Hampshire. I believe very strongly in that. I want school board seats. I want congressional seats. I've been losing those in my state. Do you know, my entire House, Senate, and governor have been Republican most of the time I've been governor, right? By Republican. My entire federal delegation has been completely Democrat since I've been governor. So we're really purple in that way. But we will lose handily as a party. I'm being very selfish. I want Republicans to win, and I'm going to get crushed up and down. So all my effort's going to go behind those candidates.
Right. I'm just going to ask one more time because
I'm sure you are.
Not to answer.
Yeah, because I don't know. Look, it's
you would vote for the guy you wrote about?
No, look. I don't think he's going to be on the ticket. I really don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I tried.
Yeah. But don't worry. Caitlin Collins, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, they've all tried. I really don't know.
Do you regret not running?
No.
Again, like they say about Congress, I made the analogy earlier that in every one of the 50 state capitals, there's somebody who thinks I could be president.
Oh, running for president, you mean?
Running president.
Oh, no, I don't regret that at all.
Right.
No, look, I toyed with it. I went out, for 6 months, I talked to people. There was, and I'm not going to lie to you, there was a lot of money to get behind me. That was pretty exciting. It was pretty cool to meet these people, and they're going to put millions in all this. But at the end of the day, for a couple reasons. Number one, it's really hard on family.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, oh boy, what if we go through this and lose? It was, oh boy, what if we go through this and win? Because your life is done. Like your life as you know it is over. I know the former George W. Bush. I was visiting with him. And you go visit him up in Kennebunkport and everything, and the Secret Service sent it everywhere. And I've talked to his daughters before, and they said, yeah, we don't travel without protection everywhere we go, especially overseas and all. You never shake that. And so I think I have a lot to offer. I think there's no doubt I could do the job. Right. But my family, it would have been way too much on my family. And there's so much at stake. I just think I can be better as kind of not the manager, the referee, kind of the guy hosting the First of the Nation primary. I have the opportunity of being the best out of all these other candidates and try to show the best of the Republican Party without Trump. And we saw that a bit at the debate, right? You saw for the first time in 6 years, you saw the future of the Republican Party without Trump. And as a Republican, it looked pretty good. They went back and forth. It was kind of exciting, batting around conservative ideas and principles, and they didn't agree on everything. And you went, wow, there's some good opportunity for leadership here. We don't need that guy. And that's why I get excited about the opportunity. And what's the result? What happened today? Trump, a poll comes out in New Hampshire, Trump's under 40%. Where the conversation is happening, he's 15 points below his national average. Where the candidates are making good arguments to the base, he's losing. And of his 39%, if I may, this is the most exciting part. A third of those Trump voters also said, oh yeah, we're willing to go to somebody else. So his floor used to be 33%.
Whose poll was that?
UNH, University of New
Because
Hampshire.
you know, the CNN poll had him way in the lead and had DeSantis in 5th place. I mean, it actually looked to me like a pretty good poll for Trump.
Yeah.
CNN poll.
Yeah, a good poll.
Yeah.
The former sitting president, head of the party, can barely get 50% of his own base?
With
That's
100
horrible.
people, with 100 people in
That's
the race,
horrible.
that proves your point, though.
Yeah. No, think about it. His floor is high, but his ceiling, for given where he's been, that he's been president, is actually quite low at 50%. Yeah. That's why so many folks are going at it. And if they have the discipline to get out, he's done.
So let's go back to the fact that you didn't run. So you don't run, and Trump goes on Truth Social. And what he says is, Rhino Chris Sununu
oh, no.
recently stated, I'm not running for president. Beating Trump is more important. No, he's not running for president because he has no chance of winning. Wasn't he right?
Well, yeah, no. No, well, a couple things. No, I just explained to you why I didn't run. It really had to do with family and all that kind of stuff.
I take all of your reasons.
You don't think
for not
Trump
running.
said that about every other candidate?
No, of course. But
he said DeSantis and Nikki Haley, and none of them have a chance of beating him. That's nothing.
I take all of your reasons for not running as right and sincere, and also a guy with your moderate politics, relatively speaking. Don't you have a hard time in today's Republican Party getting through a primary?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. That's a reality.
Right.
But there's more than just where you are. And again, I'm a principled free market conservative. I'll put my conservative credentials against a lot of theirs, frankly, when it comes to supporting business, when it comes to local limited government, when it comes to fiscal discipline. Trump has no fiscal discipline. He added $8 trillion to the debt, and that's your money, and you all guys have to pay it back. So I'll put my conservative credentials there. I'm more socially moderate because we lose on those issues. Those are bad issues for Republicans. I'm from New Hampshire. Right. Those aren't big winners. Those don't get independents excited. It scares people away.
Right.
And so, yeah, in the general election, I think I'd do really well, frankly.
But you'd have to get out of the primary.
Of course, no, and that was just it. This is you want to know my strategy? Here's how I was going to do it.
Go.
I was basically going to have to live in Iowa for 6 months, right? Just plant myself in Iowa. Here's an interesting thing about Iowa. More than 85% of Iowa Republicans don't currently vote in the caucus. They're more independent. They're younger voters. They're not engaged. It's kind of the old boys club there a little bit with the Iowa caucus. So I was going to go after them.
Yep.
Put myself on those college campuses. Put myself in with the suburban moms. Talk about those issues. Get people excited with a little personality and a little personal touch and do the retail politics better than anyone. Yeah. And then you surprise everyone in Iowa. Guess what comes next? New Hampshire. Boom. We'd crush it in New Hampshire, and then it's me and him. And then he's toast.
And that's your...
that would have been the strategy.
That's your one-on-one.
Yeah, that would have been the strategy.
So you just
see, it sounds like it would have worked.
Yeah. There are a lot of Republican primary voters, I can tell in the audience.
Both of them are here.
You just owned the word moderate without my bringing it up. You describe yourself as socially moderate.
On social issues.
Right? Not a dirty word these days.
No, why? No.
Well, Politico had a headline earlier this month, can a moderate Republican win anymore? They had to put it in quotes. Like it's a word that defies...
No, I get it. I guess I don't love the word because you say moderate Republican.
Right.
But again, I think on the issues that matter, I'm actually quite conservative. And I'd say, look at New Hampshire. Look at the success we've had in New Hampshire. Phenomenal.
Right.
On social issues, those aren't at the heart of what I didn't run for office to fix your social problems because, by the way, government shouldn't be doing that. That's not government's role.
And that's conservative.
Yes, that's my whole point.
Right.
Look, you want to talk about the woke stuff and anti-woke stuff and all. Government is not, I don't like the woke stuff, but government is not going to solve that. This is not to be solved. That's a community issue. That's about your family and your community. Government is, who you elect is not going to win some woke or not woke battle. Let's get that out of our heads. Yep. It's about limited government, letting you be empowered to have the say, to find the pathways in your school, in your community, whatever. So
let's be specific about that because I looked up your record as governor and I want to ask you about a couple things that, again, you say, I'm conservative.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Sure.
Governor Chris Sununu says abortion should remain legal in New Hampshire well into the second trimester of pregnancy. Would other Republicans or conservatives say that was conservative?
Yes.
Explain why.
Well, the vast majority of states, even Republican states, have abortion some of them have restrictions in the third trimester. I'm trying to get my trimesters set. But allow it, in the first 2 trimesters, which we do.
Which states would that be?
Yeah. New Hampshire. Yeah. Look, on the abortion thing, the answer is actually amazingly simple. Right. It's up to the states, right? Roe v. Wade got overturned. The states decide. Yeah. So understand what happens in Texas is never going to be the same as California or New York or Mississippi or Florida or anything. And everyone wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. I didn't, but a lot of folks wanted it. Conservatives wanted it overturned, right. And that allows the states to make the decision in their states, which they are and they will.
And your point is that what works in your state is legal abortion into the second trimester.
Yeah, and so the warning I have for folks is that if you want, we need to do something federally. You do something federally with a Democrat administration, let's say, and we say abortion is legal up until the day of birth, which I don't agree with, by the way. Right. Let's say you do that.
I'm also not aware of anybody. I'm not aware of anybody who believes that.
No, okay, whatever. You do some really loose, restrictive abortion law, which I have no problem with. Then when the Republican comes in, you've now set a precedent, and now the Republican administration is going to do just the opposite and ban it everywhere. Guys, that's not the answer. That's not the answer. You're going to have a ping pong ball of abortion going back and forth forever. No side is ever going to win. You let states decide, because here's why. If the folks in Florida, let's say, right, you brought up Florida. If the folks in Florida don't like what's going on in Florida, they have way more say, way more power to make that change in their state with their connection to their state, as opposed to hoping Congress finally does something, hoping the president finally wakes up and does something. You're putting way too much trust in Washington that has a horrible record of doing anything. Right. I mean, what was their big action this week? What was Congress's biggest move this week? They all went home today. Right. That's literally the biggest thing they did.
Right. I'm kind of glad, actually.
Yeah, but literally, let the folks have more say. You want more say. You want more control over that issue.
Governor, as a practical matter, this issue has not proven to be good for you in elections. I believe.
Well, not for me. It doesn't matter.
No. But my point is, I believe the Democrats have won every election since Dobbs was overturned in the states.
Where?
Right. In all Kansas, Ohio, the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin. I
won.
There's a whole bunch of. I understand that, but I'm saying since Dobbs was overturned, if you look at the elections that have been litigated on that issue, it sets up as not a good thing for you all to have in play as an issue in the next election cycle.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So take it out of the federal hands. Yeah.
Right. You also, as governor, opposed Republican legislation that would have forced schools to reveal a student's sexual orientation to parents.
No, I did what?
You opposed legislation that
you're talking the Parental Rights bill.
Yes, that could have forced schools to reveal a student's sexual
orientation. So I didn't veto that. To be fair,
but you opposed it.
Because it was a very extreme bill. It actually would have been, even our conservative attorney general told the Republicans, guys, this is like going to get overturned in court. So I have never have a problem going against my party or anybody if they're proposing a bill that's just going to get thrown up or tied into court. I really don't have a problem with the concept of parental rights and parental say, and working with teachers and working with schools. And New Hampshire is a wonderful success story there. But yeah, what they were trying to do was unconstitutional. I said, please don't put that on my desk. It's probably not going to fly. And so they didn't even put it on my desk.
Right. Did you not also kill a Republican plan to redraw a House district boundary in the favor of your party? You opposed the attempted gerrymandering by your own party. Right.
That's right.
Why is that?
I'm the only governor in the country that did not sign a redistricting bill, because gerrymandering has screwed everything up nationally. That is the key problem in this country. Not to mention, I have two districts. They wanted to make one super Republican and one super Democrat. I said, last time I checked, I'm a Republican. Why would I give a Democrat a job for life, right? But gerrymandering is the worst thing in the world. We've gone from 150 congressional seats in this country that kind of get batted back and forth to about 50. And so what happens? The Republicans go deeper right. The Democrats go way deeper left because they're more worried about primaries. And that is, at the heart of it, the biggest problem that has created all this divisiveness and polarization in Washington, D.C. Yeah. It's awful. Now, something that could help, not cure it, but help, is term limits, right? I mean, term limits are an absolute must. I don't have term limits, but guess what? It's public service, not a public career. It's just that simple. And so think of it this way. Let's say you took all 100 members of the Senate, Republican and Democrat, right? You replace them with 100 randomly chosen working adults in America. You think things are getting worse? Right? You think they're going to get less done? God, no.
Yeah.
No, they've set the bar so low in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
it's embarrassing. And they kind of want us to accept it, that it's okay, because it's become so commonplace for so long because of the extremes are having, way too much push and play.
So I mentioned former president calling you a rhino. That has become a concept in our conversation about politics. Republicans in name only.
I'm sorry, the guy who was a lifelong Democrat
before,
called
right?
me a rhino?
Well,
Yeah,
I want to actually introduce the concept of conservatives in name only. Here is Mike Pence at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire earlier this month. Should the new populism of the right seize and guide our party, the GOP, as we have long known it, will cease to exist, and the fate of American freedom would be in doubt. Like progressives, the Republican populist government should dictate how private businesses operate. The governor of Florida even used the power of the state to punish corporations for taking a political stand he disagreed with. That is not conservatism.
It's not.
Says Mike Pence.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is my question to you about what is conservative now and what is not.
Yeah.
Is telling people what they can and can't do and businesses what they can and can't do conservative?
It's populism.
It's not.
It's just tapping into emotion more than anything else. It becomes a populism of the base, but it's not conservative at all.
Yeah. Is preempting local control conservative?
No. Look, low taxes, limited government, local control. Government, and I can imagine this cousin might not agree with this. The government isn't here to solve your problems. It's not. Here's what the government is designed to do. Here's what the best government does. Like my job, I don't know what your needs are. I don't know what your business needs are. I don't know what your kids' needs are in education. So my job is to set up as many doors of opportunity for you, your family, your business, permitting, whatever. And then I'm coming from the live free or die state, man. You do you. You decide what door is best for you, not me. It's not for me to say, do I know what's best in your kids' schools? No. You, your teachers, your school board. You guys decide the curriculum. You guys decide the teachers' contracts. You guys, and our school board meetings can be pretty tough. Our town meetings can be real battles. But at the next day, after you battle it out, I'm like standing at the school bus stop with my neighbor, right? So we know in New Hampshire how to have really tough fights, but we don't let that destroy our personal relationships. We don't let that completely polarize us. You fight hard, you win some, you lose some, but the key to that is letting most of those fights, as many as you can, happen at a localized level, because you guys are a lot smarter. You as the voter are a lot smarter than me as the governor. You know what you need, not me.
You know that the critique in the Democratic Party, certainly, but in some quarters of the Republican Party, is that re-electing President Trump would be a danger.
A danger.
Do you believe that?
A danger to...
To all of us, to democracy. Do you believe that?
Trump's too dumb to be a danger to democracy. Let's not give him that much credit.
Right.
Let me tell you something.
That, by the way, is going to be the headline tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you, I want you guys to relax. It's all going to work out.
Yeah.
So there was a former Republican governor of Texas that told me this, and it made amazing sense. And we talked about the threats to the Constitution, the threats to democracy. And we had this discussion, and it occurred through the discussion. Let's think about where America has come for a second. We went through a civil war. Nothing threatened our nation, our democracy, our foundations, our institutions more than that. We came through it.
Yeah.
We went through... let's go as the McCarthyism. Terrible time. Complete threat, right? We came through it. Our institutions stood. We went through it. We went through 1968, where some of the greatest voices of America are not just shouted down. They are assassinated in the middle of the Vietnam War and the times of Richard Nixon and all this craziness. We got through it. We went through 9/11 with an external threat. Our institutions stood strong. January 6th,
right.
Awful day in American history. But you know what happened that afternoon? They certified the election. And you know what we had, as we have always had? A peaceful transfer of power. Guys, and I'm quoting here, so bear with me. As this former Republican governor told me, asshole leaders may come and go, but our institutions stand strong. They really do. We have an amazing system here in this country. And believe in that. Feel optimistic in that. And someday there won't be a Trump, there won't be a Biden, there won't be a Chris Sununu. We're going to get through this. Tough times. I might not like the policies of the left. You might not like some of the policies of the right. But that doesn't mean that our whole foundations and our system are going to crumble. Because at the end of the day, the most important part still stands. You have the vote. You have the say. You decide who you want in your school board, which I would argue is way more important than who's president, right? In terms of what impacts your life, what impacts your kids' future, right? You decide who has that power. So I know it's a scary time and there's all this extremism on each side, but let me tell you, our institutions are strong. They really, really are. And I want people to be optimistic and excited about what America is and how it's not a perfect system, but by God, I have no doubt it is far and away the best system that you're going to find anywhere. And you will always retain the power. I believe in it.
I will note, Governor, that your anonymous former Republican governor, there were only two possibilities, and I know which one would have used the word asshole.
It was Ann back in the day. No, I don't. She's a sweetheart.
I think I know who that was. So, New Hampshire voted Democratic in the last 5 presidential elections.
I hadn't noticed.
Yes. Why do you think that regardless of who the Republican nominee is, that New Hampshire will switch this time?
To be fair, Trump lost by like 1,000 votes in 2016.
Okay.
It's always pretty close.
Yeah.
I think at the end, I don't want to say because they come out too conservative or anything. I think sometimes they put a lot of effort in New Hampshire in the primaries. Sometimes that's forgotten a little bit in the general election.
You think it's flippable this time?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, depending who the candidate is. If Trump's the candidate, no. I mean, it would be a really hard state. But then again, I don't know who's on the other side. Right. I mean, I really don't think it's Joe Biden. I think there's a lot to be played out there. I don't know where. I mean, what's the Hunter Biden stuff? I mean, that's all that drama. 70% of America doesn't want Trump or Biden on the ticket, right? The majority of us just don't want that. And you as Democrats, if there are Democrats in the audience, should be excited about the opportunity of getting, you all laugh because, I get it. Trust me, I get the joke up here. But as Democrats, you should be excited about the opportunity of finding, and I'm going to be biased, I think we need to both parties need to find the next generation of leadership that bring excitement, that bring ideas, that bring, whether you agree with them or not. How about this? Yeah. This is, as governor, I can tell you, it's a really hard job. President it should be a really hard job. I think the bar has been very much lowered over the past few administrations. But you need to believe in somebody that they're giving. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Joe Biden is giving 120% of his effort 120% of the time. Guys, come on. Give me a break. Give me a break. You got to believe that your candidate is giving 120% of the time, no holds barred. What do we have to do? We have so many problems to fix. Let's get at it. I don't think either party has shown that, whether you're talking about the presidency, the Senate. Right. Well, they don't have the energy.
And I will say that the polls that came out this week support your point. Yeah. The public is dissatisfied with the choices before them.
Both sides. Yeah.
So you talked about going to a new generation. I thought Ron DeSantis was the new generation in your party of leadership.
No, I think he's younger than me technically.
He is younger than you. So what happened there?
What do you mean? What happened? I don't know. He's running for. He's like the second place guy for president.
What happened to the DeSantis? The boom for Ron DeSantis?
You'd have to ask. Look, I don't know how he runs.
You know him. You were governors together. You have a point of view about this.
I would say this. I'm just going to answer from an outside. I know Ron. I think he's done a decent job as governor. I don't agree with everything by far, and he wouldn't agree with everything with me. We've had a lot of disagreements. Right. There's no doubt. In terms of the presidential campaign, I can't tell you how he's running his campaign exactly. I think he's spending a lot of time in Iowa. He's putting a lot of eggs in Iowa, so you could talk to Governor Reynolds about how he's doing out there. Right. The campaigns move. They are dynamic, right? Every week is something different, whether it's, how's the debate? Nikki Haley did wonderful at the debate and her numbers spiked. People thought that, her campaign was really quiet for a while and all of a sudden, she came through. So every candidate is going to have their moments. Maybe it's something on social media. Maybe it's a little bit of a political stunt. Maybe it's, some action they take, whether it's as a sitting governor or whatever it might be. Right. So, I don't want to criticize any candidate. It's still so early. It really is, guys. There's still a lot to play out.
But he's not your candidate.
Oh, I didn't say that.
I'm asking.
Well, I don't have a candidate.
Why not?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I really don't know who I'd vote for right now. Right. In the primary?
Yeah.
Look, I don't do coy very well, as you can tell.
Right.
When I figure out who I'm going to vote for, I'll absolutely let everybody know, and I'll probably work very hard for that candidate. Right. But look, an endorsement from Chris Sununu, even in New Hampshire, I know I'm very popular. In New Hampshire especially, endorsements don't mean that candidate's going to win. I'm happy to help a candidate and all that.
But you are planning to endorse somebody whose name is not Trump in the primary.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Let me ask you about a couple of things that you've mentioned, and then I want to get to your critique substantively of this president, of the current president, what it is about him that you think is the problem. I want to understand that, but I want to ask you about a couple things first. You used the word woke earlier. You were talking about, woke, I'm not really sure, that this is a thing. The answer to a lot of questions in that primary up to this point, the Republican primary, has been noun verb woke. Woke is usually in all capital letters, like we have to scream it. What does it mean? Can you define it?
No.
No? So why are people talking about it?
I don't think it wasn't even mentioned in the first debate. They didn't talk about, they didn't mention the word woke once in the first debate. So I don't think the candidates are running on woke or whatever, or anti-woke or any of that.
I think you've got one guy who wrote a book with woke in the title. You have the governor who described his state as the place where woke went to die. But I beg to disagree.
No, but if you're in New Hampshire, if you were on that debate stage, it's not coming. I get it. Maybe that helps define them. That's a hook they have to get the base all riled up and excited. Right. I might not agree with it, but I can understand it. You want to, have a flash, and it's someone like Vivek. I think you're referring to Vivek. He's a completely unknown candidate. He's trying to have a flash, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, on that debate stage, they were talking about, what's happening internationally, how we're going to be fiscally disciplined, how we're going to secure the border, how we're going to do all these things that actually matter. So no, what is woke? I couldn't even. I think everyone has somewhat of a different definition. I don't know. I don't concern myself with it a ton. There's a lot of identity politics and othering and justifying prejudices and all this kind of weird stuff. That's not what I'm in this game for.
Okay.
I take care of my citizens. I want to manage. And like I said, government isn't here to solve that. If you think things are too woke or things aren't woke enough, that's something for your community and to really handle, not wait for some answer from the government. The president's going to solve this for us. Guys, that ain't going to happen. Or should it?
So President Zelensky of Ukraine was in Washington this week?
Yes.
There is a debate in your party over whether we ought to give up on supporting the Ukraine side of that war. Where do you come down on that?
100% behind Ukraine.
What should the party's position be? That's it?
100%. Like, no question. Look, for a fraction of what we spend in our defense spending in 1 year,
right?
You're telling me we can put our boot down on the abuse and the murder of Putin, put that tin can army where it belongs, world peace through America's strength. And what it would say it isn't just a win in Ukraine, we're going to back Zelensky. That's not just what this is about, although that is right and it is just. And we should support freedom fighters around the world and families that are literally getting murdered by the thousands, but still will fight. It sends a message to our enemies: we have resolve. Don't think you're going to let our politics divide us and weaken us. It sends a message to our allies: you can trust us. When we say we're going to back you, we're going to back you. And boy, it really means a lot. So there's like a tenfold benefit in terms of making sure that not just Zelensky has money and has what he needs, but that thing is won. It's won quickly. We minimize the loss of life going forward. Use whatever technologies you need. And America makes a statement that we will defend those who want to fight for freedom.
Right. I want to ask you about 1-6 and the roll forward on 1-6. Sure. You were very clear at the time, and have been very clear in the intervening period, that you considered this to be a terrible day.
Of course.
You referred to the people who stormed the Capitol on 1-6 as domestic terrorists.
Did I? I might have. I honestly, I don't. Yeah, I might have. I don't remember.
You did.
I don't remember that, but okay.
And you said that the people who were arrested, charged, convicted, they should be held accountable. No question about that. But again,
people talk about pardoning those guys. Are you kidding me?
There is a discussion going on about whether they should be pardoned, and there's a discussion going on about if he is convicted on charges potentially related to 1-6, whether former President Trump should be pardoned. Yeah. What's your position on that?
I'm sorry, on what?
On whether former President Trump should be pardoned. You have people in your primary who are taking that
if he's found guilty of something, no.
As a litmus test. We're going to pardon him before elected.
I believe in the courts. If the courts find him guilty, he's guilty. I mean, that's it. I don't know exactly. I mean, whatever the charges are, and there's 4 different trials going on. Right. But no, look, I'm a big believer in law enforcement. I'm a big believer in public safety. And I'm saying that here in Austin, Texas, where you guys have an issue. You have to own you have issues here on the streets. There's no doubt about it. But you can't say we're all for law enforcement. We're all for accountability in the system. Oh, but by the way, we're just going to pardon our political friends. No, come on. Stop it. Stop. Not appropriate.
Mitt Romney, when he had decided that he was not going to run again, there was a piece by McKay Coppins that ran in the Atlantic, an excerpt of a piece that is part of a book, an extraordinary book that's going to be out soon about Romney by McKay. And Mitt Romney was quoted as saying this: a very large portion of my party, that's your party, doesn't really believe in the Constitution.
Yeah, no,
do you agree with that?
No. I will say this: Mitt's a great friend. I think there is a guy that just says what's on his heart, and I might not agree with it all the time, But I do appreciate that.
But you don't agree with that.
That
a large percentage
of the Republican Party
does
don't
not
believe
in the Constitution.
No. That's an extreme. That's a very, very extreme thing to say. I know my party. I'm out there with them. Are there extremists out there and even Trump himself? Well, maybe we need to change the Constitution and all that. Yeah, that's nuts. But that does not constitute a big portion of the party. It really doesn't. Understand this. If only about a third of Republicans actually vote in the primaries, and only half of them are voting for Trump, stop telling me that a majority or a big portion of them don't believe in the Constitution and want to. That is not true at all. It really isn't. That's a very extreme statement, and it's not. It would be just as easy, and it has happened, where the ultra-right will say the same thing now about the left. Oh, they want to tear down democracy and Democrats don't believe in the Constitution. That's not fair to say. That's not true, right? I get there's an extreme over here, 5-10%. There's an extreme over here, 5-10%. But 80% of us are here. We might disagree vehemently on politics, but this is where we are, and this is America, right? So I think too often we're letting ourselves, and the media is a huge part of this, be defined. I get it. Right? What happened in third grade when you heard there was going to be a fight after school? Where'd everyone go? To the playground to see the fight after school. What happened when social media was created? They learned very quickly there's a lot of money to be made in letting people fight and scream and yell at each other and let those extremes come out because it gets passions boiling and everyone wants to re-engage in the conversation. Then mainstream media and cable media got involved in it. And you saw both, those started really taking and picking sides, right? Because there was more money to be made in the fight. So I get it. There's a lot of money in that game. But that does not define America. And that does not define, I think, the greatness that we all have to offer this country, right? And so don't get caught up in that. I don't want to say, I don't get offended by much. I'm number 7 of 8 kids in an Irish-Lebanese family. Nothing really offends me. But don't get caught up in the ease of saying, oh, yeah, the other party just wants to break down the Constitution.
Well, he's saying that about his party, in fairness, not about
Yeah, I think he's wrong. I think he's dead wrong. Yeah.
So I look at the Biden first few years in office, and what I see right now is unemployment's pretty good, jobs numbers look pretty good, spending on things like infrastructure through the infrastructure bill or the American Rescue Plan, Inflation Reduction Act, a lot of money's going into states to support.
Where's the money coming from?
All of us.
That's right.
Okay.
No, your kids and your grandkids.
Well, but
we didn't have the money to spend.
Tell me, did you turn the money away, by the way, when the infrastructure money came to him?
No, because
Did you turn it down?
Let me answer.
Yeah.
So they made a very clear rule. If you turn the money down, we're just going to give it to California. That's literally what they said. So no, I know how to spend that money way better than Gavin Newsom, so we were going to spend it the right way.
Yeah.
So of course we didn't turn the money down.
What is your critique of this administration's last 3 years?
Okay, so
that causes you to believe that any Republican, and you wouldn't say earlier, potentially even the former president, would be a better option than the current president.
So let's take the campaign aside. Let's just talk. You want to ask about Biden? I'll tell you about Biden. Guys, inflation is the worst tax on the poor ever. The fact that middle and low-income families can't buy a house. Wealthy people can buy a house. You and I can probably go afford to pay a little extra on the interest rate or whatever it is for at least for a short time.
Yeah.
But the number of young home buyers, middle-income home buyers, is at an all-time low right now. It is the worst thing in the world. People are having trouble. Credit card debt alone just crossed $1 trillion, far and away the most ever. And there's nothing worse than credit card debt, by the way, because it means I'm paying my mortgage with massively, not even way higher than normal interest rates, massive interest rates, just to pay my mortgage and put gas in my car. So if you think there is not a massive economic shakedown coming because both Trump and Biden have massively overspent, the reality is going to hit really hard. I lived in San Francisco for 3 years. I was an environmental engineer out there. And San Francisco always had a bit of a homeless problem. We know that, and a drug problem in that. But I was there literally last week. 10,000 homeless people in open-air drug dens. How are they doing with Bidenomics, guys? These are record levels. When I went on the Bill Maher show, right before I go on the show, Bill and I are backstage, and I have the lowest poverty rate in the country. I work really hard to get mental health services, drug treatment services, fighting the opioid epidemic. That is what it's all about when you're dealing with homelessness. That is the game. And I'm on Bill Maher, and I started talking about the homeless. I said, Bill, yeah, I'm really concerned about homelessness. I don't live in California anymore, but by God, these are Americans. They deserve better than this. He's like, yeah, have you been down to Skid Row? I said, Skid Row? What is that? He said, that's where they all live. I said, you call it Skid Row? The indignity of that. I'm sorry, I'm like, this is the one thing that gets me really emotional. I'm not saying you can absolutely solve homelessness tomorrow. But there are solutions that are not being brought to bear in the name of social justice. Walk your own streets here, guys. You have all this money is being spent. Wonderful. Go ask the record number of homeless you have in your own city how it's doing for them. It's not working, guys.
If your poverty rate is as low as you say, I take your...
It's the lowest in the country by far.
What'd you do?
So what you do is this. You don't just say we're going to let people just walk the streets and let them be homeless in the name of social justice and we'll let them shut down the streets. You provide wraparound services. 8.5 to 9 out of 10 people with homelessness are dealing with unmanaged mental health issues. So you need robust mental health services. Here's another one for you. Stop giving politicians credit for spending money. That's not a result. The result is less homelessness. The result is better test scores in schools. The result is seeing your opioid epidemic deaths go down. Demand they get better results. Then you can give them credit. But this idea that, we're spending $6 billion more on the homelessness issue, are you changing the way you're doing it? If you're not willing to change the way you're doing a broken system, you're just pushing harder in the wrong direction, right? So you have to have the courage to say, boy, doing it like we did in 1985 ain't working. We got to change the system. You know what else I did? Rural access. So many of these states, like California and maybe Texas, I don't know, they'll put all the services with these nonprofits that are passionate and they want to help. They put all the services in the cities. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. You got to put them in rural areas. Because we found the addiction rates, for example, are 4 times that in rural areas than inner cities. So I told places like Easter Seals, they do great work, wonderful work in New Hampshire. I said, okay, guys, if you want all this grant money, you have to put services over here. And you need the people. All the money in the world, all the greatest policies and design in the world, that only gets you part of the way there. If you don't have the people to provide the services, it ain't going to work. So a place like California, they're all leaving. Everyone is leaving. So there's literally almost no one left to provide the services, even if they had a system that worked. So you have to have all these other pieces working to make sure you have people that want to live there, that can live actually in the cities, where services can be provided in the rural areas, that are combined with the opioid treatment services that deal with fentanyl, not like... so many states are still dealing with the drug epidemic like they're dealing with crack in the early 90s. It's such a different thing.
Yep.
You have lifetimes of recovery, systems that provide lifetimes of recovery, warm handoffs. So it's not like 28-day service, you should probably be in long-term recovery. Good luck with that. We don't do that in New Hampshire. We say 28-day service, now here's all your options depending on where you live. I created something, I'm very proud of this. I ran a ski resort in the middle of the mountains. And we had people that were addicted. And I realized if I fire them because they're addicted, like so many folks were doing at the time, it's bad for me, I lose an employee, it's bad for them. I called it sending them back to the wolves. So I wanted to be a recovery-friendly workplace. And so I taught my staff how to work with folks that were in recovery. We made sure they didn't go back to the same places where they got their drugs. We had a buddy system set up with, folks that were former alcoholics were now kind of keeping an eye on the new young kids that were dealing with fentanyl. Then when I became governor, I created something called Recovery-Friendly Workplace, where we teach all the employers how to be recovery-friendly, how to get engaged and part of that ownership, because nothing's more important to someone that has mental health or recovery issues than the self-worth of work and staying in your community and not being separated from your family, right? This isn't a Republican or a Democrat. This is just good engineering, right? It's not the perfect system, but it's clearly working better than anyone else's.
Right.
So I think the challenge I have is too many places are not trying to do it differently. They're catering to politics, and now look what's happening. Look what's happening in New York. Catherine Hochul, Democrat governor of New York. Catherine's a very nice person. But what did she literally say today? If you're thinking of coming to this country, please don't. The Democrat governor of New York said that because they realized that their policies of just letting everybody in are an epic disaster because they can't provide the services. And it's not just more money to homeless, build more housing. It has to be a wraparound, encompass system where the left hand and the right hand really know what. I'm sorry, I get very passionate about it because
it's all right. It's okay.
this has to be the focus in this country right now. And it's just not. And so, yes, I take a lot of criticism with Joe Biden when it comes to his economic plan and what interest rates do and how it if you're not pro-business, focusing on business and energy independence.
Yep.
That is such a key part of making the whole system work. We need to work to renewable energy. I'm an environmental engineer. I know more about the environment and renewable energy than any other governor out there. And we're going to make steps, and we're doing offshore wind, and we're going to do more renewables. But if you go too hard, too fast, it doesn't work. It's just like a lot of money in subsidies, some political wins, but practically speaking, it doesn't work. So we got to take steps, but not think we're going to be everything to everyone all at once. And again, the more of these decisions that are happening locally in your own communities, the better off this whole system
the better
works.
off. So I want to be sure we get to some questions from the audience. Please put the URL up, the slide up for questions. And while those questions are coming in, and we'll have a colleague of mine join us on stage to ask them, what did you learn from your dad? Your dad was governor for 3 terms. He's had a lifetime, really, of public service, it feels like to me. This is the family business.
No. I'm from a family of 10. 3 of us went into politics. That's like below average for New Hampshire.
Yeah, but the reality is...
It really is.
But the reality is that your dad was governor, your brother was in...
My dad was an engineer, my brother was an engineer, and pretty soon I'll go back to being in the private sector. So what I learn from my dad? And by the way, the first person in my family to get elected wasn't my dad. He brought it up. It was my mom,
right?
In the school board.
Right.
And she would drag us to the school. When you have 8 kids, you join the school board, right? You want to protect your interests, you join the school.
Yeah.
What did my dad do as an engineer? Planning board, right? And he'd drag us to the meetings and would have to color in. So if I learned anything from my dad, it was just that. It's service. Find your thing. He never said you should. In fact, my dad hated the idea of me going into politics. But I give this advice to everyone. You all have something. Your kids have something to offer. What is your thing? Maybe you're going to donate time at a nonprofit. Maybe you're going to run for office. Maybe you're going to become a tutor or a teacher or a nurse. What are you going to give to your community? How are you going to tithe your time, that little extra, to be community-driven and give of your thing? I was an engineer, and I believe good government comes from good engineering. I really do believe that. The other big piece of advice he gave me is don't ever give unsolicited advice. No one takes it, no one cares. And we all want to do that, right? That's what social media is born on. I'm going to tell you what I think, and you're going to agree. No, it doesn't work like that.
Not a bad idea. All right, Matt Ewald's going to join us here and ask a couple of questions that have been submitted.
This is fun.
I hope so. Okay. Matt, fire away.
If Trump isn't the nominee, won't whoever is the nominee have to buy into MAGA in order to win?
No, because it's a general election. The way you win an election when you become the nominee is you talk to the independents, you talk to those suburban moms that we've lost, you talk to those younger voters that Republicans have lost lately. Just the opposite. I know that you got to be more. People tend to lean more conservative into the base because they got to get through the primary. But once you're the nominee, it's definitely a little.
So if Trump is not the nominee and the Trump faithful stay home, not vote for Biden, stay home, there is still a mathematical path forward for a Republican candidate to win, and it runs through independents.
And as it did with Biden. Biden didn't win because the independents went to him. They left the Republican Party and they went to him.
Right. Okay. Next one.
Yeah. Washington is nearing a government shutdown. Do you think Republicans should, at the very least, support a short-term stopgap bill to keep it running? And what do you think of Kevin McCarthy's speakership possibly being in jeopardy?
Yeah, I like Kevin a lot. I think he's working hard. I think they should do everything they can to keep the government running. There's no doubt. But the issue is this. So you have 5 or 6 extreme Republicans or a dozen extreme Republicans that are holding it up, right? So 200 Democrats aren't voting for it. 20 Republicans aren't voting for it. But if I may, this is a very important point. What's my House? I have 400 members in my House of Representatives, guys. You know what the split is? 200 Republicans, 198 Democrats.
Right.
And I'm from New Hampshire, the live free or die state. I got libertarians, I got anarchists, I got extremists, I got socialists, we got communists, we got everybody, every flavor. And they said, well, I guess you're not going to get anything done, split house, right? Do you know I got my budget done with a unanimous vote in the Senate, 350 out of 400 votes in the House? How did I do it? I didn't care about the extremes. I told them to go pound sand. I went and worked with the Democrats.
So should McCarthy tell the extremists, one of whom is Chip Roy, congressman from Texas, to pound sand?
Yeah. So what he should say is, hey, Democrats, there's 200 of you that aren't voting for this. Why not? Why are you voting to shut down government? Let's get you guys on board.
Hold on. So it's the Democrats' fault that government's being shut down?
No. There's 200 Democrats not voting for it. If just 10% of them voted to keep it open, wouldn't it stay open? Right?
Well, it would be.
I'm not blaming one side or the other, but guys, don't just think it's just one side.
But you'd be asking them to support something that they don't agree with.
Which is why Kevin should go across the aisle. And he has, but he's got to go across the aisle and say, okay, what do you guys need to see? Tell me what you need. So I'm just saying there's a path there. Right. And it's the right path because it's shunning the extremes. You know what happens after that? The extremes say, well, I guess we don't have any say anymore.
Well, but
that's a win for America.
Practically speaking, if he were to do that, wouldn't there be a motion to vacate the speakership?
Was there no. Was there in New Hampshire? No.
But the difference is that he negotiated a deal that allows one member of the Republican majority to call to vacate the speakership.
Again, they can make the call to do that. But again, if he's working with Democrats and the Democrats are going to get something, they get a vote too, guys. The Democrats get a vote. Yeah. So if he's working with the other side, why would they vacate the speakership of the guy who's getting them what they want? Right? So I'm not saying it's easy. Because trust me, when I did it, when my speaker did it, it was really hard. But by God, we got it done. And we got best budget we've ever had. It was amazing because we ignored the extremes. And they all went, oh, I guess we don't have the
Is your bet
power.
at this point that the government's going to shut down?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And
that stinks, but it's...
And who does this hurt? The Republicans in charge of Congress?
Who gets blamed and who does it hurt is all actually a little bit different.
Who gets blamed?
Yeah, probably Republicans more than Democrats. I would guess. Yeah, I would guess. Okay. Yeah. Don't you think?
Matt.
I would think.
Why should your less populous, less diverse state have equal power to Texas in the U.S. Senate?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll read it again.
Why should your less populous, less diverse state have equal power to Texas in
the U.S. Senate?
Why should you have 2 seats and we have 2 seats?
I'm sorry, did the Founding Fathers get it all wrong? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, that sounds like what the questioner is asking.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Look, we do when it comes to Congress. We have a bicameral legislature, guys, right? The House can't do anything where you have way more members without the Senate. The Senate is, the way that the system is designed is awesome because part of it does take into account population, and you have way more say than I do. You have way more say in Congress, which is exactly what we're talking about today. I only have 2 members. You have how many?
38.
There you go, right? So don't blame us for shutting down government, But then you have the Senate, which has a very different role. It's called a bicameral legislature. If they had the same makeup based on population, you'd have a unicameral legislature, and that's not our system, nor should it be. You need checks and balances even within the legislative system. So to have 2 separate systems, you need 2 separate design schemes, and it actually works very well.
Next one.
In the South, local control has often meant denial of civil rights. Isn't discrimination against non-whites, non-Christians, and queer people often a cost we pay for local control, and is it okay?
Well, of course it's not okay. So you're saying because we allow local control, it incentivizes more discrimination?
Or at least enables denial of rights. That's the implication of the question. No. It enables denial of rights. Well, if you allow communities...
I can tell you, New Hampshire has more local control than anyone, and that isn't our experience. I don't know what's happening down here, but that's not our experience at all. Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah. Because here's what, let me explain in New Hampshire. I don't know what you guys are seeing that I'm not seeing, and I'm not saying it's not there, but in New Hampshire, if you go to town meeting or the school board and there's a denial of rights or whatever it is, guess what? The next year, all those people come up for election, they all get fired. They all get kicked out of the school board. So I don't know how you guys do it here.
And that's the accountability.
Yeah, there's complete accountability. If you're not doing what the people want, it works.
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
Republican economic policy fuels income equality and pushes our children's futures into peril. Why do you still support it?
Wait, the Republican economic policy pushes children's futures into peril. Guys, $32 trillion. Are you saying that Democrats have some platform of fiscal responsibility? Your children are paying that debt. And by the way, they're paying it to China. And both Republicans and Democrats in Washington have been horrible about that.
Right.
I reject that premise completely.
You acknowledge this is a problem that's been going on for some time.
It was really, Trump started it, horribly exacerbated with this administration. There's both sides are, and more importantly, empowered by both Republicans and Democrats in Congress. I had the ranking Republican senator say to me, they all wanted me to run for the U.S. Senate once. And I said, well, explain to me why I should run, because it doesn't seem like you guys do much. And I said, I'm a fiscal hawk. I believe that if your fiscal house is in order, amazing things happen. You know why I can invest in all these new programs with drugs and opioids and mental health? Because I have a surplus every year. I manage our systems. I'm a very pro-business state. We have very high wages, not because the government says so, because we believe in the free market, and that allows more people to come to the state. So when you do it right fiscally, amazing opportunities happen. No one in Washington has done it right. And the Republican ranking member said to me, well, Governor, it's a balanced budget. No one really cares about that. I'll tell you one thing. Oh, Pence was right next to me. This is a good story. We're backstage at an event. Mike Pence was standing right there, who was a former governor. And he looked at me, he looked at the gentleman I was talking to, and he goes, I think that was the wrong answer. And he quickly got out of the room because he knew I was going to pop off, and I made my decision right there. I'm not running for the Senate. That's the B team. The Senate is a bunch of lackeys. It is on both sides, seriously. So it is the B team. They do more. They take vacation. I'm a governor. I don't get vacation, guys. I don't get days off. God forbid there's a flood, there's a shooting, there's a tragedy, whatever it is. I'm called at all hours of the night, and I'm happy to do it because I love being there for my state. But these guys in Washington, fire them all. Fire them all. And you can't tell me we wouldn't be better off.
Matt, one last one, quick.
Okay. What do you think the recent Texas Attorney General impeachment acquittal will do to the Republican Party in Texas?
Ken Paxton.
I know all this.
This will be fast, I'm sure, right? Yeah.
It was embarrassing. I think it was completely embarrassing. I mean, I'm up in New Hampshire and I was watching it. I have a lot of friends in Texas, a lot of Republican friends in Texas.
What was embarrassing about it?
Because I think the evidence was so clear, and it seemed like it was a baked-in vote before it started. And look, let me get a little broader with that. When Trump is in office, the Democrats are like, we're going to impeach him. And now Biden's in office and Republicans are like, we're going to impeach. Guys, these things are really bad for America. They really are awful. Now, in this case in Texas, I think it looked like it was very justified, and he probably should have been found guilty. And I don't mind saying that. That impeachment is like the last step. That's when everything has really broken down and you have criminal activity and all that sort of thing. I think people, not in this case in Texas, but my fear is nationally, whoever's elected president, the other side at some point will find a reason to impeach him. It's just become like commonplace to the point where when they said they were going to impeach Trump or impeach Biden, it was barely even a headline on the news that day. It was a headline. People talked about it for a couple days. They're going through the motions again. 20 years ago, that would have been headline news every single day because it is such a drastic move by either side. So my fear is that the extremes are using extreme things and extreme words and extreme actions because they don't like the other side when sometimes I really don't think it's justified. And I'm not taking sides on anything, but you got to bring the temperature down. We're going to beat the other side. Can we take a step back from that? Because sometimes the other side are your friends. Sometimes the other side, we all know what empathy is, right? Do we practice empathy? Right? Are we setting the best example for our kids and saying, boy, we might disagree. Sometimes when someone tells me something and I'm like, how do I disagree better here, right? And so what I say is, you're saying something that I completely disagree. I'll say, okay, tell me more. Tell me why you believe this. Give me some more here. What is your background? I know you're a good person. You don't hate people. You don't hate America. Give me the sense of why you're there. I think all of us, every one of you, myself, my kids, every one of us have a bigger responsibility to approach those conversations. How do I get, even though we might disagree, that's okay. How do I get a good outcome with this conversation? How do I lead a good example for my kids? How do I show that next generation they should be part of this thing? This thing of government, it can be amazingly empowering, but there are so many good people, especially young people, they don't want to be part of it. They want nothing to do with it. That is so bad. That's the worst thing that we can have in our country. So I think it's a cycle. I think we're going to get there. I believe in the next generation. And frankly, the next generation is mostly Democrats. I don't believe in their politics necessarily, but I believe that they know how to use technology, social media, and they're taking a better approach to a lot of these issues than my generation, frankly, screwed up. And I'm part of that. I'm part of the problem.
That is actually, as far as it goes, a hopeful place for us to end. Governor Sununu, we're very, very lucky that you came to Austin tonight. Please give Governor Sununu a big hand.
Woo. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
That was a lot of fun. Hope that was all right.
It was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
BP is working to deliver the energy America needs today while developing lower carbon alternatives. We support more than 275,000 U.S. jobs And in 2022, our businesses contributed more than $70 billion to the U.S. economy. Every major BP Global business is active in America, our largest presence in the world. That's how BP is investing in America.